a quiet college town, a warm spring night, and a 20-year-old student who walked into the darkness and was never seen again. This is the story of Lauren Spierer, a disappearance that has haunted Indiana University, Bloomington, and the entire country for more than a decade. A case where every detail seems to lead somewhere, yet all of it leads nowhere. A case filled with cameras, witnesses, timelines, phone records, and still no answers. Before June 3, 2011 became the date that would change everything, Lauren was simply Lauren, born January 17, 1991, raised in Scarsdale, New York, and loved deeply by her family and friends. She grew up in a close-knit Jewish family, with parents Charlene and Robert Spierer, who adored her. Pictures of her childhood show a bright, smiling girl with an adventurous spirit and a soft heart. Lauren moved to Bloomington to study textile merchandising at Indiana University, one of the top schools for her field. She was a sophomore, a young woman full of hope, planning her future, building her independence and shaping her life. She had friends who admired her, a boyfriend who cared for her, and a full college experience ahead of her. In photos, she appears petite, blonde, energetic, the kind of student who lit up a room, who blended effortlessly into campus life, who made friends easily. She was thriving. She was involved. She was present. And she was just beginning to enjoy the freedom of living away from home. Her days were filled with classes, sorority life, meeting friends at cafes, working through assignments, and attending IU events. Her nights were no different from thousands of other students. Gatherings with close friends, movie nights, and sometimes the typical college nightlife. Everything about Lauren's life felt normal, until the night that was. Because on the early morning of June 3, 2011, Lauren Spierer stepped out with friends for what should have been an ordinary college night, a simple night out in Bloomington. But she didn't come home. She didn't return calls. She didn't answer texts. She didn't show up for anything she had planned. And by sunrise, a terrifying truth emerged. Lauren Spierer had vanished without a trace. No final phone call. No confirmed sighting after a specific moment. No evidence pointing toward where she went or who she was with in her last minutes. A disappearance that defied logic in a town full of surveillance cameras, streetlights, witnesses, and people who claimed they saw her. And that mystery is what has kept this case alive for more than a decade. A 20-year-old student disappears in the middle of a college town, surrounded by people she knew, and somehow no one can explain what happened. If you love deep-dive true crime stories, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because this case is as mysterious as they come. Over the next hour, we will break down the timeline, the theories, the witnesses, the controversies, and the chilling unanswered questions that still surround the disappearance of Lauren Spierer. A case filled with contradictions, secrets, and a night that spiraled far beyond anything anyone expected. But to understand the disappearance, we must first understand the hours and the people leading up to it. And it all begins with Lauren's final night out in Bloomington. The night of June 2, 2011, began like countless other nights in Bloomington, but it would become the last night anyone ever saw Lauren Spierer. Just after 12:30 a.m., Lauren walked out of her apartment building, Smallwood Plaza, a place she had walked in and out of hundreds of times before. She wasn't alone. With her was her friend David Rohn, another Indiana University student who lived nearby. It was late, but for college students in Bloomington, late didn't mean the night was over. It meant the night was just beginning. Lauren and David made their way toward the 5 North Townhomes, a residential complex where several IU students lived, including friends Lauren had known for months. This wasn't a random stop or a new crowd. These were people she felt comfortable around, people she trusted. They were inside one of the townhomes, hanging out, drinking, talking, laughing, typical college behavior on a warm summer night. Nothing about that moment suggested danger. Nothing suggested that Lauren was walking into the final hours of her known life. From the 5 North townhomes, the night continued to unfold. At 1:46 a.m., Lauren was seen on surveillance footage entering Kilroy's Sports Bar, one of the busiest bars in Bloomington and a popular spot among IU students. She wasn't alone. She was surrounded by familiar faces, stepping into the bar like she had done before. Inside Kilroy, the atmosphere was loud, crowded, filled with music and bodies moving shoulder to shoulder. It was a typical Thursday night turning into Friday morning. But here is where the timeline becomes critical and chilling. At Kilroy, Lauren reportedly removed her shoes, a common practice for students entering the sand bar area of the bar. But when she would later leave, those shoes would stay behind. Her cell phone was also left inside the bar. 2 items that could have helped track her movements, left on a table at Kilroy's Sports Bar. At around 2:27 a.m., Lauren left the bar with another IU student, Corey Rossman. He wasn't a stranger. He was part of the same social circle she had been with earlier. Surveillance cameras captured them walking away from Kilroy's and into the Bloomington night. Barefoot. No phone. Accompanied by Corey Rossman. They walked together toward the direction of Lauren's apartment area. The streets were quiet, dimly lit, with the glow of street lamps reflecting on pavement still warm from the day. The route between Kilroy's and Smallwood Plaza was familiar to IU students, a short walk, a straight path, a place where crowds spilled out of bars every weekend. But this walk would become central to everything that followed. Between 2:30 a.m. and 3:00 a.m., Lauren and Corey headed towards Smallwood Plaza, the very place Lauren had left just hours earlier. Cameras around that area captured pieces of their route, their movements, their positions, little fragments of time that would later become essential to the investigation. But what stands out most in this stretch of the timeline is the detail investigators found most baffling. Lauren left Kilroy without her shoes, without her phone, and barefoot she walked into the night. What happened in those minutes at Kilroy? Why did she leave her things behind? Why did she leave with Corey Rossman, and why didn't she return for her phone? These questions still shadow the case to this day. From the bar to the sidewalk, from the sidewalk to the streets, Lauren and Corey moved closer to Smallwood Plaza. Visuals would show the bar's neon lights behind them, the darkened Bloomington streets ahead of them, and the apartment buildings lining the area they walked toward. This walk, only a few minutes long, marks one of the last confirmed movements of Lauren Spierer. And with each step she took, the timeline grew tighter and the mystery grew darker. Because the closer we get to 2:30 a.m., 2:45 a.m., 2:51 a.m., the more the case begins to twist. The more the truth becomes foggy. And the more every detail begins to matter. This was the night Lauren left her belongings behind. This was the night she walked barefoot toward her home. This was the night she was last seen by multiple witnesses, yet vanished without a trace. And everything that follows, the cameras, the alley, the final sightings, the sudden silence, all begins right here. The night Lauren Spierer left Kilroy's Sports Bar and stepped into the final documented minutes of her life. The early morning hours of June 3, 2011, have been reconstructed piece by piece through surveillance footage, witness accounts, and the small windows of time investigators were able to verify. And it's in these minutes between 2:30 a.m. and 4:30 a.m. that the entire mystery of Lauren Spierer's disappearance takes shape. At exactly 2:30 a.m., surveillance cameras captured Lauren and Corey Rossman entering the area around Smallwood Plaza, the apartment building where Lauren lived. The footage shows them arriving together, walking into the complex. For investigators, this moment is crucial because it is one of the final confirmed visual records of Lauren alive. But the calm of that footage doesn't last long. Shortly after entering the Smallwood area, Corey Rossman claimed he got into a confrontation. According to online reports and interviews surrounding the case, Corey said he was punched in the face by another student, a blow strong enough that he later claimed it left him disoriented and unable to remember much of the rest of the night. What exactly happened in that confrontation? Who threw the punch? And why? To this day, these questions fuel debate, speculation, and suspicion. Because that moment, that punch, created a break in memory that left a major gap in the timeline. What is known is that Lauren and Corey did not stay at Smallwood Plaza. Instead, at approximately 2:51 a.m., surveillance footage shows Lauren leaving through an alley near the complex. She walks out, barefoot, dressed in black leggings and a white shirt, moving away from her building, not toward it. This is one of the strangest, most unsettling pieces of her timeline. She was so close to home, steps away from her front door, and yet she walked away from it. The camera captures Lauren heading east through the alley behind Smallwood. It is dark, empty, quiet. She walks toward an open, empty lot nearby, and this moment becomes devastatingly final. Because this is the last time Lauren Spierer is ever captured on camera. After 2:51 a.m., she ceases to appear on any surveillance footage. No more videos. No more images. Just silence. But the timeline continues through witnesses. Around 4:30 a.m., another friend, Jay Rosenbaum, becomes part of the final known moments. Jay lived nearby, and Lauren had reportedly visited his apartment earlier in the night. In interviews and statements, Jay said that he last saw Lauren at around 4:30 a.m., walking south on College Avenue near 11th Street, heading in the direction of her home. But she wasn't wearing shoes. She wasn't carrying a phone. She wasn't dressed for wandering alone at 4:30 in the morning. Barefoot, black leggings, white shirt, and walking into the dark. This reported sighting by Jay Rosenbaum is haunting, because if correct, it means Lauren was still alive nearly 2 hours after the final camera footage. And yet, between 2:51 a.m. and 4:30 a.m., she moves through Bloomington without being captured even once, despite the campus having cameras, lights, bars, apartments, and students out late celebrating the end of the school year. How does someone walk through a college town and vanish? Bloomington is not a deserted rural location. It's a busy student town, filled with movement even at 3 a.m. and 4 a.m., a place where cameras sit outside bars, apartment buildings, and parking entrances. A place where groups of students walk home at all hours. And yet Lauren slipped through all of it. No witnesses saw her after Jay's reported sighting. No cameras caught her turning down a street. No one saw her enter a building, get into a car, or collapse. She simply disappeared. Her last confirmed video is at 2:51 a.m., stepping into an alley. Her last reported sighting is at 4:30 a.m., walking down College Avenue. After that, nothing. The disappearance of Lauren Spierer becomes even more perplexing when you consider how unusual this gap is. In a town filled with students, cameras, lights, and witnesses, Lauren's trail doesn't fade, it abruptly stops. And that abrupt stop is why this case has remained unsolved for more than a decade. Every minute after 4:30 a.m. becomes a chilling question mark. If you think you know what might have happened, drop a comment below. Sometimes even small clues can matter. Because in this case, the smallest detail could change everything. When June 3, 2011 turned into daylight and Lauren Spierer still hadn't come home, panic surged across Bloomington. Calls went unanswered. Text messages stayed unread. And every possible place she could have been was silent. By June 4, 2011, less than 48 hours after her last known sighting, her parents, Charlene Spierer and Robert Spierer, boarded a plane and flew from Scarsdale, New York, to Bloomington, Indiana, to begin what would become the longest and most heartbreaking search of their lives. The moment they arrived, they didn't wait for instructions, permission, or direction. They acted. Charlene and Robert began handing out flyers, speaking to students, knocking on doors, contacting police, and pleading with anyone who might have seen their daughter. It didn't take long for the community to respond. Students from Indiana University, many of whom didn't even know Lauren personally, joined the search. Entire groups of volunteers walked through neighborhoods, checked alleys, searched wooded areas, and combed through parks. Local businesses hung missing person posters. Churches opened their doors as volunteer stations. News stations broadcast alerts across Indiana. Within days, the search for Lauren became one of the largest missing person searches in the history of Bloomington. Hundreds of volunteers joined. Some days, nearly 1,000 people searched. And the areas checked were vast: wooded trails, construction sites, rural roads, ravines, nearby lakes, and the edges of Monroe County. Law enforcement began executing search warrants. They searched Lauren's apartment, apartments belonging to people she had been with the night she vanished, and properties connected to tips and leads that poured in. Detectives examined dumpsters, trash routes, and transportation hubs. They collected surveillance footage from bars, parking garages, and student housing complexes. Multiple lakes were searched by divers and dogs. Creeks were drained or examined with sonar. Vacant fields were walked grid by grid. But the searches didn't stop there. On July 2, 2011, a body was discovered in a creek in Indianapolis, sparking immediate national headlines and fears that the search for Lauren had come to a tragic end. But after examination by authorities, it was officially confirmed. The body was not Lauren Spierer. The search continued. Through the summer of 2011, law enforcement sifted through hundreds of tips. Some were credible, many were not. But the volume of information was massive, leads coming in from multiple states. Sightings reported in various cities, and theories from people who believed they knew what happened. One of the most significant operations took place in August 2011, when investigators searched a large landfill in Pimento, Indiana. The landfill search was tied to the possibility that a dumpster near the route Lauren had last walked might have been emptied into that facility shortly after her disappearance. For days, crews examined tons of material, a process slow, grueling, and emotionally draining. Nothing connected to Lauren was ever found there. Over the years, the case refused to go cold. It stayed active year after year. Law enforcement executed multiple additional search warrants, some public, some sealed. Detectives returned to local lakes, woods, abandoned properties, and rural farmland. They followed up on tips from people who believed they recognized Lauren somewhere across the country. They checked leads involving vehicles seen in the area. They interviewed and re-interviewed friends, acquaintances, and individuals who had crossed paths with Lauren in her final hours. Her parents, Charlene and Robert, remained at the center of everything. They set up a headquarters in Bloomington. They organized volunteer groups. They worked with private investigators. They spoke at press conferences, pleading for information, pleading for honesty, pleading for someone, anyone, to come forward with the truth. But what makes the disappearance of Lauren Spierer so unnerving is that despite everything, the volunteers, the warrants, the searches, the attention, the national coverage, not a single definitive piece of evidence has ever been recovered. No clothing. No belongings. No confirmed sightings after 4:30 a.m. No trace that explains where Lauren went after that final moment on College Avenue. And yet, year after year, police continued to receive tips. Some came from former students. Some from prisoners claiming knowledge. Some from people who believed they witnessed something that night. Every lead was checked. Every rumor followed up on, every possible location examined. But every single time, the answer was the same. No Lauren. No explanation. No closure. The investigation into the disappearance of Lauren Spierer remains one of the most extensive missing person cases in Indiana history. And despite the endless hours, the manpower, the evidence logs, and the public pleas, the truth continues to hide in the shadows of that night. A night filled with surveillance cameras. A night filled with witnesses. A night full of people she knew. A night in a college town that never sleeps. And yet Lauren vanished. The search would continue for years, but the mystery would only grow deeper. As the days turned into months and the months into years, the case of Lauren Spierer only grew more complex, more controversial, and more layered with unanswered questions. Because despite the massive search efforts, despite the cameras, the witnesses, and the timeline investigators were able to piece together, there was still one undeniable truth. Lauren didn't disappear on her own. Something happened, and someone knows what it was. From early on, investigators and Lauren's family began examining every possibility. One theory that surfaced repeatedly online was that Lauren may have been drugged or incapacitated at some point during the night. Reports circulated that she appeared unsteady, confused, or impaired while walking with Corey Rossman, and that her condition may have worsened as the night went on. But what exactly caused that impairment? Alcohol? Something else? Or a combination of factors? From that point, attention shifted to the people who were with Lauren during her final hours, a group of 4 men who have remained at the center of the controversy for more than a decade. 1. Corey Rossman, the student who left Kilroy's sports bar with Lauren at 2:27 a.m. He was with her when she returned to Smallwood Plaza. He was involved in the confrontation where he claimed he was punched in the face, leaving him disoriented and unable to remember portions of the night. His account has been questioned for years. Did the punch really wipe his memory? Or was something else happening that night? 2J Rossman, the friend who lived nearby and was among the last people to see Lauren alive. Jay reported seeing her at 4:30 a.m., walking south on College Avenue barefoot, wearing black leggings and a white shirt, the final reported sighting of Lauren. But that detail raises another disturbing question. If she was seen at 4:30 a.m., why does her last camera appearance stop at 2:51 a.m. in that alley near Smallwood? This nearly 2-hour gap is a major part of the controversy. 3. Mike Bate, another friend in the social circle that night. He was present during portions of the timeline, and his name appears in online discussions, investigations, and a 2024 investigative book that re-examines early evidence. 4. A fourth friend, publicly referenced in later reporting. This individual was mentioned in 2024 investigative articles, where several movements and phone calls between certain members of the group appeared inconsistent or unexplained in the timeline. The men have stated publicly and to authorities that they were not involved in Lauren's disappearance. But inconsistencies remain, and contradictions in timelines, phone activity, and recollections have only fueled public suspicion. The overdose theory. One of the most widely discussed theories online is that Lauren may have overdosed or experienced a medical emergency sometime after leaving Kilroy. If this happened while she was with any of the men involved that night, panic might have taken over. Some believe the group may have tried to help her, but then, fearing blame, student repercussions, arrest, or scandal, they may have hidden her body instead of calling 911. This theory has circulated for more than a decade because investigators have never publicly cleared it, and because no evidence has ever surfaced to contradict it. But there is also no evidence proving it. The mystery man, sightings. Another deeply unsettling part of Lauren's case came from a witness account that emerged early in the investigation. A bar manager claimed he saw a man carrying a woman slung over his shoulder near the intersection of 10th Street and College Avenue at approximately 3:38 a.m. The woman reportedly resembled Lauren, petite, blonde, dressed like she was that night. But this sighting remains unconfirmed. No camera captured this moment. No identity for the man has been established. And no connection to the timeline has ever been proven. Yet that location, 10th and College, is chillingly close to the route Lauren was last reported walking. Was it Lauren? Was it someone else? Or was it a misinterpretation, another piece of misinformation in a sea of speculation? Investigators never ruled the sighting in, and they never ruled it out. Recent investigative reporting. In 2024, new investigative reporting, along with a book that revisited evidence and interviews, reignited public interest in the case. The reporting highlighted inconsistencies in multiple accounts, possible contradictions in phone activity, unexplained movements in the timeline, potential clues that were overlooked in the earliest days. Some of these details raised old questions. Who was truly with Lauren in her last minutes? What happened inside the apartment she visited? Why was there so much confusion and silence around the timeline after 2:51 a.m.? And most importantly, why has no one ever stepped forward with the missing truth? No CHRGS, no ARRSDS, no answers. Over the years, thousands of tips have been submitted. Hundreds of interviews have taken place. Multiple search warrants have been executed. New theories have surfaced. Old theories have resurfaced. And families of those involved have issued public statements, press releases, and defenses. But not a single person has ever been charged. Not one arrest has ever been made. And no definitive piece of evidence has ever emerged. Through all the suspects, theories, and controversies, one fact remains devastatingly clear. Lauren Spierer is still missing. And the truth about what happened between 2:51 a.m. and 4:30 a.m. has never been revealed. Theories exist. Suspicions exist. Conflicting timelines exist. But the truth stays hidden. And until someone speaks or evidence is uncovered, the mystery will remain one of the most unsettling disappearances in modern college history. 14 years. 14 long years since June 3, 2011, the night Lauren Spierer vanished into the Bloomington darkness and never came home. And as of 2025, the case remains exactly where it was on day one. Unsolved. No arrests. No suspects officially named. No confirmed evidence. No trace of her ever found. Time has marched forward, but the mystery of Lauren's disappearance has refused to fade. If anything, it has grown heavier, weighing on the people who loved her, the community that searched for her, and the investigators who still open the case files, hoping that this time, some overlooked clue will reveal itself. Lauren's parents, Lauren Spierer and Robert Spierer, have carried this weight every single day. Their lives were rewritten the moment their daughter stepped into that alley at 2:51 a.m. They left their home in Scarsdale, New York, and moved their lives into Bloomington for months, dedicated entirely to finding Lauren. They have held press conferences. They have launched campaigns. They have begged for honesty, for clarity, for just one person to come forward. And they have watched the years go by without the closure every parent deserves. The town of Bloomington hasn't forgotten either. What happened to Lauren still lingers like a shadow over Indiana University, and over the streets she once walked. Students graduate, years pass, the city changes, but the mystery remains frozen in time. How does a young woman disappear from well-lit streets, in a town filled with surveillance cameras, in the middle of the night when bars were still closing and students filled the sidewalks? How does someone vanish without a single witness stepping forward? Without a piece of clothing found? Without a shoe, a phone, a clue, or a trace? Even after thousands of tips, multiple search warrants, landfill searches, lake dives, rural property sweeps, and years of investigative work, there has never been one definitive piece of physical evidence. Not one. That absence, that void, is what makes Lauren's case one of the most haunting missing person mysteries in American history. But beyond the timelines, theories, and speculation lies something deeper: the human cost. There are the candlelight vigils held year after year, where students and strangers gather with photos of Lauren, holding candles that burn in silence. There are the flyers that still appear on anniversary dates, taped to telephone poles and storefronts. There are the messages from friends who still write to her online, refusing to let her memory be swallowed by time. There are the family statements from Charlene and Robert, who continue to fight, continue to hope, and continue to demand answers, even when the world grows quiet. And there is the constant question that haunts everyone involved. How can someone simply disappear and stay disappeared for 14 years? Every year, new students arrive in Bloomington without knowing Lauren's name. Every year, someone who once searched for her moves away, graduates, or grows older. But Lauren's story remains, carried forward by those who refuse to let her be forgotten. Her case is a reminder that unanswered questions don't disappear with time. They grow louder, more painful, more demanding. And until someone speaks, until evidence is uncovered, or until the truth emerges, the disappearance of Lauren Spierer will remain an open wound. Before we close this documentary, I want to hear from you watching right now. Where in the world are you watching from? Drop your country or city in the comments. Sometimes the global reach of a story can help keep a missing person's name alive. And if you believe someone out there knows more than they've said, if you think a detail in this timeline stands out, if you have your own theory on what happened between 2:51 a.m. and 4:30 a.m., share it below. Discussions lead to awareness, and awareness leads to answers. Finally, if you want more deep-dive true crime documentaries just like this one, don't forget to like, comment, and hit the subscribe button to support real crime documentary stories. Your engagement helps keep cases like Lauren in the light, where the truth still has a chance to be found. Because after 14 years, one thing is clear. Someone knows what happened to Lauren Spierer. And one day the truth will come out.